Welcome to the Little Bit of Life podcast, where we talk about what we think but don't always say. Settle in, get comfortable, and let's dive into today's episode together. You're right where you need to be. Meet Rue and Crew Nutrition, natural, holistic healing for your dog, from GI balance, anticonvulsant, CBD for separation anxiety, to hydration and pre-cancer prevention. There is something for every dog, no matter the age or breed. Order now at rueandcrewnutrition.com and save the hassle, help the health, and extend the time of your beloved pup today, because they're not just a dog, they're family. Hey, everybody. Welcome in Little Bit of Life podcast right here with your host, Little. We are talking our dogs. We're talking health, but you know what? Don't change this channel real quick, because it's probably something you would never expect. This topic, we're talking about microplastics. Do any of my listeners, do you guys even know what that is? Do you know what that means? Because guess what? It's not something that just affects our dogs. It's affecting your health too. In a world full of plastics, in a world full of recycling, we are getting a lot of toxicity in regards to microplastics. We have the guru, the one and only Miss Tanya on today. We're talking microplastics in our dogs. Tanya, it's good to see you. How are you?
Nice to see you too. And thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. It's brilliant to be here.
We had a little meet and greet prior, and honestly, microplastics is not something I truly was concerned about, not only with myself, but with my dogs. Please tell us how this is truly just coming right into, from the stores and online products, into our home with us and our dogs.
There's been a lot of information out there these days about microplastics. I mean, we've been hearing about it a lot. So I own a company called Titan Bioplastics. And so we're sustainable polymer engineers, and we've seen the evolution of how the recycled plastics industry and the bioplastics industry has evolved over the past several years. We're a little bit more advanced in the EU than we are in the US, but we're making strides. And then, really understanding how these plastics are affecting our lives. And I think there's just been so many studies that have been done recently. There've been so much social media around it. There's been so much buzz around it, because it's inescapable at this point. So it's not a question of, can we get rid of plastic? Because that's really realistically not going to happen. Plastics are with us forever, but how do we mitigate that? How do we mitigate the use of plastic in our life? How do we protect our pets from extra plastic? And how do we as human beings, protect ourselves from simple little things that can help us avoid some of those microplastics building in our systems? We already have it. So it's not fatalistic, but it's somewhat protective at this point. So and I can go into some of the studies about microplastics. There was a recent study that was done. I think everybody on the internet saw this one, with the testicles of the male dogs and also men. And in the cases of the studies over several years, 100% of the testicles found and tested had microplastics in them. So that was kind of scary. And there's some new, evidence coming now forward that plastics are playing an impact and a part on our dog's health, on our pet health. And it makes sense when you think about it, because there's a $15 billion plastics industry out there for dog toys alone. I mean, the pet industry is huge. It's much bigger than 15 billion. But in dog toys alone, it's a $15 billion industry. And over 90% of that is all nylon and plastic toys that our dogs actually chew on. So yes, you want to avoid a plastic water bottle that sits potentially in the sun on a dock somewhere and is leaching God knows what into your water bottles. But when it comes to our toys and what we give our pets, maybe we can be a little bit more discerning.
I never thought of that, because when we, obviously having a large dog and then now also having French bulldogs, it was something where it was like the craze, right? To give them a nylabone. It doesn't split, it doesn't crack, it doesn't break, they can't ingest it. And it's something where, you and I having our discussion, I mean, even going to the local pet boutique or going to a PetSmart or a Petco or any normal space that you guys would go to get products, I was kind of amazed and shocked to walk down the toy aisle, because everything you see, like you said, is plastic. It says Nyla, but Nyla is the one product that's really being pushed right now because it's so solid. And it's something where, as pet owners, we think we're giving our dog something that is safe, right? Like when we leave, we don't want something's going to crack, chip, break, have a choking hazard. I mean, for, I don't know, over 20 years now, I'm aging myself since I've had dogs, but for 20 years now, I always thought that Nyla was safe. I never knew that there was this huge concern. So with Nyla bones and the plastics and stuff that's in our toys and the bones that we're giving our pets, what does that do to their health?
Obviously, I'm not a veterinarian from a medical standpoint. I can't speak, but I can tell you that, it is, I think that there has been a lot of misconceptions around plastic. Not all plastic is bad. So I want to say that. But I think that common sense is when you put nylon and plastic into our mouths or into a pet's mouths, there's going to be consequences. And we just didn't know what those consequences really were eventually. So I think that, the industry has built a reputation on really solid toys as a principle. And what we know now, we didn't really know then. So I think that there is a play at this point where we can make as consumers an informed decision, and what does that look like? And what are our choices and our options? So, from our standpoint, we recognize that we could provide an alternative.
Mm-hmm.
And we really wanted to encourage the consumer, now that we do know that there is a danger around giving our pets plastic to chew on, which is literally what it is, nylon plastics, right? Or petroleum based plastics. How do we can now mitigate that. So from our standpoint, when we looked at this as a company, having adopted Augie from during COVID, and I had both the kids home. We're like, okay, we're going in. We're going to get another dog now, and we're all here so we can work with him or her. And we ended up getting Augie from Texas. He was a rescue. And the first thing now, having been in the sustainability side of the business and understanding that we could provide an option, I went to our team and I go, listen, guys, all I find out there is stuff that's made from nylon and plastic. Can we make something that our dogs don't have to chew on that isn't nylon plastic? And they worked really hard and they got us, what we have today, which is the Augie Bones. But I think that, we now see lots of companies or several companies that are coming up and starting to do this. You know, it's a fine line because the industry is so large. So, these small companies like ours are taking big risks going up against the big companies, so to speak. But I think this is where things are headed. And it's because we're more educated. If we weren't so educated, then we would just be doing the same thing we always do. But now we are. How do we say, okay, we know now. Why would we keep doing that? And we
Right,
know the
right.
effects that are harmful to the dogs as well.
You and I had a discussion. It's amazing, and I wanted you to talk about it. There was kind of a research that was done with the actress Amanda Seyfried, and you and I discussed that, it was amazing because it's not just in the plastics within like the toys, but it can also be in regards to the packaging. Tell us a little bit about that research that she did with her own pet, because I truly find that fascinating. Unless you are like deep diving into this, type of topic, you would never think of this. I mean, we have those that are, feeding their dogs raw, cooking for their food, cooking for their dogs and doing this based on their nutrition. But it's even in the packaging.
Yeah, I mean, everything, plastic leaches. It leaches. And we don't know where that material sits. Like I use the plastic water bottle as an example. Which of course now we use refillable water bottles as most of us do in human beings, but 13 billion water bottles still go into the waste stream every year. So that a lot of people aren't. But you use that as an example where you don't know where things are, where they sit, how they're stored, if they see sun for leaching, and so they're already into whatever the material is by the time you get it. The Amanda Seyfried was part of a press release that was done by EarthDay.org, and I think I sent you the link, which I'm happy to resend. She took part in a plastic tox test to support EarthDay.org's efforts to raise awareness about the health risks of plastic chemical exposure for both humans and pets. I'm quoting here. And she says, I was anxious about the results when they came back. She was definitely upset because her dog Finn's exposure scored in the top 90% of phthalates, which is a very high, which are some of the toxic chemicals that go to make up the materials that are being used. and she feeds her dog a healthy diet. And she realized now that the packaging, even on the food, was leaching toxic chemicals directly into it. So, I think that there are simple things that we can do to, support the health of our pets. And it's common sense things. The common sense things are we can't always control or understand where the pet food comes from unless you really have traceability with the manufacturer. But you can do things that do make sense, like not giving your dog a plastic toy to chew on. So, there are things that we can do to mitigate that. But that was where that report came from, and that's what that was association was.
I want to go into, I think it's beautiful what you've done. You've taken a rescue in, obviously being a rescue mom myself. It's just incredible. You get to see their personality come out, even on that shelter form when they state, their personality, their quirks, their do's, their don'ts. You kind of get them into your household and you learn all about them. I love that you named your brand after Augie, and we all love in this house. As soon as that package arrived, everyone laughs. I even posted a video and I'll repost it for this episode. They were fighting over who got their head in the box first to pick out the one they wanted, which I wanted to really focus on because a lot of us nowadays, we have very picky dogs. Our dogs want those items that, crack, break, splinter, have those problems because it has that flavor. And it's interesting, one of my French bulldogs, she never ever liked almost that Nyla type of texture unless it was like a real like bone marrow. She wanted nothing to do with it. She is in love with Augie Bones. Like I have to put it away at nighttime because she will hide it under my pillowcase to kind of like root under and chew. But it comes with flavors, which I absolutely love. It comes in different sizes. I think that's very crucial. I'm very interested to know, since there's no nylon, no plastic ingredients, what kind of testing did you do to make sure when this came out, you were ready to go?
Great question. Well, we did a lot of testing on these toys, and Augie was the primary tester. So every time we would come up with a formulation, a composite for it, I'd be like, okay, send it over, and I just give it to him to test out because he has those big buffers. So I figured if he could chew it, anyone could chew it. Well, not anyone, but tough chewers. Well, we wanted to make sure, first of all, our primary focus was on the materials themselves and making sure they were safe for dogs and that they weren't going to have anything toxic that would go into their bodies. So we actually had all the materials tested by Kima, which is a third-party testing lab, and we had them tested to European standards because of the sustainability factor, and we had them tested for 10-month-old babies. So we figured if they could pass the testing to go into the mouths of 10-month-old babies, then they were safe enough for our pets. From a toxicity standpoint, from the materials themselves, we feel really comfortable and confident that those materials are safe for our pets. And anything that does get ingested and pass right through are not going to leave behind harmful microplastics. So that was the key thing. The other thing we did was with the flavoring, we decided not to go with the all natural, flavoring because there is so much disparity in the type of materials that they use and the parts of the animals that they use that we wanted to do something that was hyperallergenic. So we went with flavoring that was more scent-based so that they were 100% hyperallergenic on all the flavors and we could call them essentially vegan. So the flavoring is all hyperallergenic. And then when it came to the toys and the engineering of the toys, because Titan are polymer engineers, from our standpoint, it was all about getting the chew. It was how are the toys going to chew? We wanted to make them more chewy than a typical tough nylon toy because we wanted to protect dogs' teeth. Mm-hmm. So the toys really, we say they're a tough chew and they are for tough chewers. But if you have a very aggressive chewer, they're going to chew down a little bit faster. And we really encourage, pet owners to watch how their dogs are chewing the toys. And if they're chewing them down too quickly, to take them away because they whittle them away with lots of pieces that will, come off like a typical nylon toy. And we also say if your dog is typically a dog that ingests some of those types of toys, it's not for them. If they're very aggressive chewer that actually ingests the majority of those pieces, you want to take it away. But overall, we would say we have a pretty high return rate of customers who have tried the toys, and we've given them to a number of different trainers. We've given them to, I mean, we've given a lot of toys away to test, to shelters to test, and they're a lot of fun. So Augie likes them, and his friends like them, and I'm so glad that your pups like them too. So thank you for trying them. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I love that. It was something where obviously, working from home and doing podcast recordings, it's always we never have control as much as we prepare our dogs when we have that, work meeting or we have, friends coming over or something where we just need them to be a little bit quiet. Like now, we need them to be a little well behaved and use their manners that we teach them. It's something where it never fails. Obviously, those that are listening, if you have a multi dog household, it's everything is a fight of that's mine, but that's mine, but I want to try that. They steal, they do everything. Augie Bones is seriously one of the only ones that I can give them, and they are very intrigued. Obviously, it's that scent, but they're not looking to like swap out with each other, which is very important because then you'll have them barking and they'll be, making all their noise. But it was very interesting because reading the packaging and giving them this product, it really had me deep dive into how many companies that are creating these bones, treats, toys, everything for dogs. None of them are testing on humans. I think it's very interesting that you do that 10-month baby test to see what's being ingested because I don't feel that that's being done in the pet industry. And it is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Do you feel that that's kind of the movement we're switching to for safety?
That there's no regulations set up for the pet industry for our pets and dogs. So the onus becomes on the manufacturer. So, we are a manufacturer. So, when we went into this, we knew what we wanted to accomplish beforehand, and we wanted to make a toy that was safe regardless. But because as human beings, we have regulations, we can have barriers of entry and barriers that we can impose on things that we want to purchase or not. But when it comes to the pet industry, there's very little. There's very little regulatory processes, and especially when it comes to toys, I don't think there's anything. So, it becomes our responsibility as pet owners. What do we feel what is important when we give our toys, our dogs toys? So I think, you don't want to shame anybody because we didn't really know for so long what was involved and what the situation was and what the consequences were and whether or not this was something that was good or bad. And I don't want to put down what's currently there because at the same time, I think that the dogs inherently have a need to chew, and I only can speak to what I believe I would want for my dog and how important those values are to me and for Augie, and obviously for to you and for many people, I think. But this is something we want to provide as an alternative. This is something we feel we can do and provide. Now there's a choice. And I think there's a couple of other companies that are coming behind us, and we encourage that. We think that's great. We want the category to build. We want more companies to come in and make these types of toys. And I should point out, because I know this will be a question, our toys are made with cornstarch cellulose. That's the primary material that we use. It's called PLA, polylactic acid. And we source everything from the US. So everything is made here in the US so that we can have traceability on the ingredients that we use, on the products that we use, and the companies that we work with.
I love that. I know that a lot of my friends, even, I feel like the pet industry has come leaps and bounds. I feel like, humans, we're there with our health, but with dogs, we're kind of taking steps back, a couple steps forward, couple steps back. I remember even 10 years ago getting the Nyla bones, and all of my girlfriends at the time, even in college, are like, my dog won't chew it. So we just, we'll boil it on our stove in, chicken broth or beef broth just to get that into it. And I remember that used to be a thing, which, looking back now, it's like we were just basically putting a flavor into plastic and then giving it to our pets. And it's something where, getting the Augie Bones, I know so many people that are listening may think, yeah, well, my dog's really picky, or my dog this, or my dog. If I highly encourage not only go in order, but one, your dog's going to love it. But two, it brings me such safety and just satisfaction knowing what I'm giving to my animal. Like they can chew on it and I don't have to be like this hovering mom. I'm a helicopter mom anyway with them. But I don't have to do that because I know exactly what's in it. I know exactly what they're chewing on. And it brings me to also, not only have you done something for Augie in regards to the bones, but you also have written a book. Can you tell
We
us about that?
did. Yeah, we did. I just got published today. I was really excited. I was like texting all of my friends and the kids and everything else. I'm like, it's on Amazon, it's on Amazon. We did a book. It's called, this is the sample cover, but it's called Augie Boy and the Great Recycling Adventure. And so, we're an advocacy brand, obviously. Our company, Titan Bioplastics, is founded in developing sustainable materials with recycled or bioplastic materials. We created a brand like Augie Bones that we felt had value to the marketplace. And we're industry agnostic as a company in Titan, but Augie Bones obviously is very dedicated to the pet industry to lead as an example for what's possible. And then I thought, well, I think it's important to create education around what we do and kids today understanding what it means to recycle, how to recycle. So the book is filled with lots of pictures. Of course, I took Augie as the feature in
I love
this.
it.
And so Augie Boy is the character, and it talks about his journey from when he was rescued, and a percentage of the proceeds for the book actually go towards helping dog shelters. So that's our philanthropic advocacy, is supporting dog shelters. And we're actually going to be doing some collectible toys this year. And having shelter, we have shelter partners we're already signing up with, like Strays of St. Louis is one of them, which is an amazing organization. They depend entirely on donations. We're also talking to Asher House, and we're working with them as well. So we really believe in supporting dogs, dog shelters, and dog adoptions. In fact, the next book is Augie Boy and the Great Shelter Adventure, and him and his best friend Honey Buns work on saving some dogs in the shelter. So there's a series of books that we're going to do, but it teaches kids about responsibility, the ideas behind dogs, that they're a lifelong commitment, and that we tie it towards sustainability. So there's a sustainable message in there, but we wanted to kind of put our money where our mouth was. And the toys have been a fun ride. It's been a fun program. It's been a fun product to build and to get to market. It's been very exciting. It's
I
challenging.
love that.
It's been challenging, but it's been exciting too.
Nothing great comes easy. I always tell people,
Oh
if
my
you're
gosh,
thinking of
yes.
going down a pathway, creating a business, creating a platform, creating a market for yourself, it's never easy, but it's something where along the journey like this, you build a community, you join with like-minded people, and you truly have a passion behind what you're doing. You'll go as far as your heart and your mind can take you.
Yes.
Listening to this episode, I don't think many people will be aware of this number, but what would you say? Because I know we talked about it prior. What would you say is the number or percentage of people that actually recycle nowadays?
9%.
Hmm.
Out of 100% actually recycle. And so there's almost a controversy going on right now that they think recycling is a waste of time because the cities and the states put so much money into it, but it is so incredibly necessary. So think of it this way. You have virgin plastic being produced, right? Every day. It comes from all over the world. About hundreds of thousands of millions of pounds of virgin plastic. And when we use that plastic and it has the ability to be recycled and we throw it in the garbage, it just goes to landfill. But if we actually recycled it, then the amount of virgin plastic that would be required would be less. And now we don't have to bring in more virgin plastic. Instead, we're using plastic that's already been used and recycling it to turn it into something new again. So that's the idea behind recycling. It's not just because we want to recycle it, obviously to keep it out of landfill, but we want to stop the amount of new plastic that's being manufactured and coming in and continuing to flood. Because there are so many hundreds of millions and billions, potentially, pounds of recycled plastic that we can reuse, and that the infrastructure is set up to be recycled, that I think it would change the dynamic of everything. I think, and we add this into the Augie Boy, actually. We put some of these numbers and these statistics in here. And this is one of them. If 1 out of 4 people made the switch to a refillable water bottle, we would prevent just 1 person out of 4 people switching to a refillable. We would prevent 13 billion water bottles going into landfill a year. Just by 1 person in 4 doing a refillable water bottle that they carry around with them. So I don't think many people understand the actual impact.
Mm-hmm.
So listen, I don't want to get too preachy about it because we're very passionate about it in our house. We're big recyclers. But my husband, bless his heart, he's really cool. He will even take the plastic wrap and plastic bags, and he'll drive down 15 minutes because it's not far from us to the recycling center and drop off the plastic wraps and bags and films and stuff like that. He's really good. You get the bins from your city, so it's available to you.
Like that we're talking about that, because I think it's kind of this moment where maybe we're all guilty of, well, I'll just do it this time, or I'll just grab this, or I'll just do it this time, or the impact. So many of us don't believe that one person can have a massive impact.
Yeah.
When we're in schools and education and we're hearing about recycling, it's always your family, your neighborhood, your community. But I love that you focus, especially in the book, of one person, because that really can truly make a huge difference. So I love what you're doing with Augie Bones. I think it's incredible. I will put your information for the website in the bio description. If you are a dog owner, maybe you just want to buy one and take it to a local shelter and give it to them, or there's always senior dogs. I actually did that with one of the large bones. We have a shelter here. They've had a senior for a very, very long time. It's been there over 6 years, waiting for its forever home. So a lot of people in the neighborhood will bring it, and brought him an Augie Bone so he could enjoy it. So I'll put the information in the bio description. Take an order, place an order. It's an amazing opportunity to give your dogs. Congratulations on publishing today. We'll put the book in the bio description as well, and cannot wait for more Augie surprises coming soon. And thanks for stopping by.
Well, I really appreciate you having me on, Tabitha. Thank you so much. And I really admire what you're doing as well, especially with your new brand. I'm really excited for you. I can't wait to purchase some of that as well and give it to Augie. And thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity to chat
Thank
today.
you so much. We'll catch up soon.
Take care. Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Little Bit of Life podcast. Don't forget to leave your feedback over on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time. Until then, take care and keep showing up for yourself.